In my family, I've always been the afterthought and the second choice. For as long as I can remember, my sister Jaimes has been the golden kid. My name is Lucy, and I am 29 years old. She is 4 years older than me and, in my parents' opinion, more intelligent, attractive, and gifted than I am. My mother would remark, "Lucy, you need to understand that you're not as gifted as your sister," without even attempting to be sympathetic. We don't want you to have false illusions about yourself. It was difficult to grow up with that type of support, but I managed to cope. I was forced to. My parents went all out for Jaimes' high school graduation. They rented her an apartment and paid for her to attend a reputable institution since she didn't want to live in a dorm with those people. 3 years later, when it was my turn, I received a bombshell from my parents. During supper, Dad stated bluntly, "We don't have money for your college. You'll have to figure something out on your own." Jaimes didn't even glance up as she sat there, messaging on the new phone they got her. So I did just that. For a year, I lived with my parents and worked at a neighborhood cafe to save as much money as I could. After that, I enrolled in college and took out a student loan. I balanced employment and school for 4 years, returning home tired to parents who hardly noticed what I had done. I got an entry-level position with a marketing company after I graduated. It was a beginning, but it wasn't glamorous. I was struggling to make ends meet despite my mounting debt, which included college loans, rent for my little apartment, and savings for a replacement car for my failing one. My parents then asked me to join them for supper. Dad replied, "We need to talk about something important," in a tone that was particularly solemn. A knot started to grow in my gut. "What's wrong?" Mom said. "Your father's hours were cut at work," as she reached for his hand. "We're struggling to make ends meet. Until circumstances improve, we were hoping you could provide us with some financial support." I paused. "I'm not sure whether I can. My loan installments are already putting a strain on me." Dad interrupted me, his expression tightening. "Forget it," said. "Dinner is canceled, I suppose." "I'm no longer hungry." They both got up, leaving me sitting at the table alone myself with guilt weighing me down. I requested more shifts from my supervisor after experiencing stomachaches and restless sleeps for a few days. I then gave my folks a call, telling them I can send you $700 a month. That's the absolute most I can do right now. "That will do for now," Mom said, her voice warming immediately. "And when you get that promotion you're working toward, you'll be able to help us more." Not "thank you, we appreciate it," but just the knowledge that I would provide them with more as quickly as possible. That's precisely what I did for 2 years. While Jaimes, who by that time had a decent career, continued to get money from our parents, I sent them $700 a month. When she received a promotion at work, they even covered her vacation expenses. When I finally got my own promotion, there was no celebration dinner, no congratulatory call. Just a message from my mom. "That's wonderful, honey. We were thinking you could increase your monthly contribution to $1,000 now." I wanted to say no. I wanted to scream that it wasn't fair, but I knew what would happen: the silent treatment, the guilt trips, the passive-aggressive comments. So I agreed. "That's my good girl," Mom said, and I hated how those words made me feel, both pleased and used at the same time. For years, I worked and saved and struggled until finally, I made the last payment on my student loan. 7 years after graduation, I was free of that burden. I felt lighter than I had in years, like I could finally breathe. That evening, I bought a bottle of expensive wine and drove to my parents' house to celebrate. When I walked in, Jaimes was there too, lounging on the couch like she owned the place. "What's the occasion?" she asked, eyeing the bottle. "I made my final student loan payment today," I said, unable to keep the pride from my voice. "I'm officially debt-free." Jaimes snorted and rolled her eyes. "That's what you're celebrating? God, Lucy, that's so boring." Before I could respond, she snatched the bottle from my hands and turned to our parents with a bright smile. "Let's celebrate something that actually matters," she announced. "I met this amazing guy. He's loaded, and I'm bringing him to meet you next week." My parents' faces lit up in a way they never did for me. They didn't say a word about Jaime taking my wine or hijacking my moment. They just started asking her questions about this guy, completely forgetting why I'd come over in the first place. I sat there for an hour, picking at a plate of cheese and crackers before slipping out the door. No one even noticed I was gone. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling and wondered if things would ever change. The loan was paid off, but I still felt shackled to my parents' expectations, to their demands, to the role I'd always played in our family. After the wine incident, I pulled back from my family. Our communication dwindled to my parents' monthly reminder calls. "Don't forget to send the $1,000 this month, Lucy. No questions about my life, my work, or my happiness. Just the money." I didn't call Jaime either, and she didn't reach out to me. We'd never been close, but now the distance between us felt like a canyon. So I was surprised when my phone lit up with her name one Tuesday afternoon while I was at work. "Hello." I answered cautiously. "Lucy, finally." "Listen, my birthday's in 2 weeks," Jaime said without bothering with pleasantries. "I'm turning 33, and I'm having a party at Bellini's." Bellini's was one of the most expensive restaurants in town. "Of course, I'm sending you 3 gift options," she continued. "Pick one and get it for me. Otherwise, you'll probably get me something useless like last year." Last year, I'd given her a handmade photo album with pictures from our childhood. She barely glanced at it. "And don't be late. Reservations at 7. With that, she hung up. Minutes later, my phone pinged with her message: 3 links to items: a designer handbag, $850, a pair of earrings, $650, and a cashmere sweater, $550. I clicked on the sweater link, the least expensive option, and ordered it with express shipping. On the night of Jaime's birthday, I dressed carefully in a blue dress I'd been saving for a special occasion, wrapped her gift in silver paper with a matching bow, and headed to Bellini's. The hostess led me to a large round table where a dozen people were already seated. My parents and Jaime occupied the center positions, while I was directed to a seat at the far edge, wedged between my cousin Todd and my aunt's friend Marge, whom I barely knew. The waiter came by with champagne, and soon it was time for toasts. My father stood first, raising his glass toward Jaime. "To our beautiful, brilliant daughter on her 33rd birthday," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Your mother and I couldn't be prouder of the woman you've become. We love you more than words can say." My mother stood next to him, tears in her eyes, and pulled out an envelope. "This is just a small token of our love," she said, handing it to Jaime. Jaime opened it and gasped dramatically. $25,000, she exclaimed. "Mom, Dad, you shouldn't have." I nearly choked on my champagne. $25,000. The most they'd ever given me was a $300 gift card for my 25th birthday, and they'd complained about that. "We wanted to help with your down payment," Mom explained. "We know how much you want your own place." Jaime stood, visibly moved, and raised her glass. "I want to thank my amazing parents for always making me feel like the most cherished daughter in the world. I've never wanted for anything because of your love and generosity." She looked directly at me when she said it, a small smirk playing at her lips. My parents applauded enthusiastically. The table fell awkwardly silent. My uncle coughed. My cousin Todd shifted uncomfortably beside me. Everyone knew about the favoritism in our family. It wasn't exactly a secret. "Well, let's continue," Jaime said brightly. "Aunt Carol, would you like to say something?" But something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the champagne, or the $25,000 check, or Jaime's smug face. Whatever it was, I stood up before Aunt Carol could speak. "Actually," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "I believe it's my turn to speak now." Jaime's smile faltered. Lucy and Carol were next. "You seem to have forgotten that in this family, there are 2 daughters," I continued, ignoring her. "Not just the most cherished one." A hush fell over the table. My father cleared his throat. Lucy, this isn't the time for what, Dad? For the truth. My heart was pounding, but I couldn't stop now. My entire life, I've wanted nothing more than for you and Mom to love me the way you love Jaime. But I realize now that's never going to happen. You're overreacting, my mother said dismissively. This is just like you, always making things about yourself. Am I? I turned to face them directly. What's the address of my apartment? My parents looked at each other, confusion on their faces. You don't know, do you? Aunt Carol, do you know where I live? My aunt nodded. The Parkview Apartments on Maple Street, apartment 3B. I turned back to my parents. What company do I work for? Their faces flushed red. My father stammered, it's that marketing place. Reynolds and Associates. My aunts replied quietly, Reynolds and Associates. You see, I said, looking around the table, my own parents don't know the most basic facts about my life. They've never visited my apartment or asked about my job. But that doesn't stop them from taking $1,000 from me every month. Lucy, stop this right now, my mother hissed. You're embarrassing us. Jaime stood up, her face contorted with anger. This is my birthday dinner. Get out if you can't behave. I ignored them both. I'm done, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. From today, I'm not sending you money anymore, and I'm done pretending we're a family. You can't do that, my mother cried out. We're counting on that money. Then I suggest you ask your most cherished daughter for help, I replied, placing Jaime's gift on the table. Happy birthday, sis. With that, I walked out of Bellini's, leaving behind a table of shocked faces and my family sputtering protests. As soon as I got to my car, I turned off my phone. My hands were shaking so badly that I had to sit for 5 minutes before I could drive. Had I really just done that? Had I really just stood up to my family in front of everyone? The drive home was a blur. My mind kept replaying the shocked expressions on my parents' faces, the way Jaime's mouth had hung open, the uncomfortable silence around the table. Part of me felt guilty I'd caused a scene at my sister's birthday dinner, but a larger part felt something unfamiliar relief. When I got home, I kicked off my heels, poured myself a glass of wine, and collapsed onto my couch. For the first time in years, I didn't have that knot of anxiety in my stomach that appeared whenever I thought about money. No more stretching my budget to send my parents $1,000 every month. No more feeling like I was never doing enough. I went to bed without turning my phone back on. The next morning, I woke up feeling oddly light despite knowing what awaited me. I made coffee, took a deep breath, and turned on my phone. It immediately exploded with notifications. 15 missed calls from Mom, 7 from Dad, 3 from Jaime, and 28 text messages. I scrolled through them, my stomach clenching tighter with each one. Mom, call me right now, young lady. Dad, your mother is very upset. You need to apologize. Jaime, thanks for ruining my birthday, you selfish bastard. Mom, we're counting on that money, Lucy. This isn't fair to us. Dad, after everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us? I laughed bitterly at that last one. Everything they'd done for me, like what? Telling me from childhood that I wasn't as good as my sister? Making me work and take out loans while they paid for everything for Jaime? But then I noticed other messages from relatives who had been at the dinner. Aunt Carol, I'm proud of you, Lucy. It needed to be said. Cousin Todd, that was intense last night, but you stood up for yourself. Finally, Uncle Bob, your parents have always played favorites. Good for you for calling it out. Their support brought tears to my eyes. I hadn't expected anyone to take my side. I took another deep breath and opened my banking app. With trembling fingers, I navigated to the recurring payment section and found the monthly transfer to my mother's account. I hovered over the cancel button for a moment, then pressed it firmly. A confirmation message appeared, recurring payment canceled. The next 2 weeks were surprisingly peaceful. I blocked my parents' and Jaime's numbers so I didn't have to see their messages or calls. I went to work, hung out with friends, watched movies, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was constantly treading water financially. I started putting the extra $1,000 into a savings account, fantasizing about maybe taking a vacation somewhere, something I hadn't been able to afford since college. Then, exactly 2 weeks after the birthday dinner incident, I received an email from my mother. "Lucy, we noticed the money hasn't come through this month. I'm sure this is just an oversight on your part, but we need you to fix it immediately. Your father and I are depending on this contribution. Please reconsider your hasty decision and resume the payments." Mom, no acknowledgement of what had happened at the restaurant, just a demand for money. I didn't respond. A week later, another email arrived. "Lucy, this has gone on long enough. We're your parents, and you owe us this much at least. The money hasn't arrived, and we've had to cancel several necessary expenses. Call us immediately." Mom again. I didn't respond, but this time I did something I'd never done before. I forwarded the email to Jaimes with a short message. "Maybe you should help them out for a change." She responded within minutes. "That's not my responsibility. You're just trying to get out of your obligations. They're your parents too." I typed back, "Funny, they've always treated you like their only child. Now that money's involved, suddenly I'm their daughter too." She didn't reply to that. Another week passed. I was cooking dinner one night when my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone, so I peeked through the peephole. My parents stood in the hallway. My heart started racing. I considered pretending I wasn't home, but they must have seen the lights on. I took a deep breath and opened the door, but only partially, keeping the chain on. "What are you doing here?" I asked, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. They looked tired. My father's shirt was wrinkled, and my mother's hair, usually perfectly styled, was pulled back in a messy ponytail. "Lucy, please," my mother said, her voice softer than usual. "Can we come in? We need to talk." I hesitated, then unhooked the chain and stepped back. They entered cautiously, as if stepping into unfamiliar territory, which I realized they were. This was the first time they'd ever been to my apartment. "How did you find my address?" I asked as they stood awkwardly in my small living room. "We asked Aunt Carol," my father admitted, looking embarrassed. Of course they had. "What do you want?" I tried to keep my voice neutral, but I could hear the edge in it. My mother sighed. "Lucy, we're sorry. We've been thinking about what you said at the restaurant, and you were right. We haven't been fair to you. We haven't been interested in your life the way we should have been." I stared at them, suspicious. "And we want to make things right," my father added. "You miss my money," I said flatly. "That's not true," my mother protested, but I could see the flicker in her eyes. "We genuinely regret how we've treated you." "You regret that I finally stood up for myself and cut you off," I corrected her. "You regret that your ATM suddenly stopped working." "Lucy, please," my father started, but I held up my hand. "No. I don't want to hear it. I've spent my entire life trying to earn your love and approval, and I'm done. I'm done trying to compete with Jaimes. I'm done feeling like I'm never good enough, and I'm done sending you money that I work hard for while you ignore everything else about me." They looked at each other, clearly not having expected this level of resistance. "We're giving you time to think," my mother finally said. "We'll wait for your call." My parents left shortly after that, promising to give me space but making it clear they expected to hear from me soon. I closed the door behind them and leaned against it, my heart pounding. Part of me wanted to believe they were sincere, that they really did regret how they treated me, but the larger, wiser part knew better. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned, replaying our conversation and second-guessing myself. Had I been too harsh? Should I have given them another chance? But then I remembered all the birthdays they'd forgotten, all the achievements they'd dismissed, all the times they'd compared me unfavorably to Jaimes. And I remembered how they hadn't even known where I lived or where I worked. The next morning, I called Aunt Carol. "Hey, sweetie," she answered warmly. "How are you holding up? Did you know my parents were going to come to my apartment?" I asked. She sighed. "They called asking for your address." I was torn about giving it to them, but I thought maybe they were finally ready to make amends. Was I wrong? I'm not sure, I admitted. They said they were sorry, but it felt like they were more sorry about the money stopping than anything else. Your parents have always been, she paused, searching for the right word. Complicated. They've never been good at admitting when they're wrong, but maybe this is a start. I wasn't convinced. Maybe. What are you going to do? She asked. I don't know yet, but I'm not sending them money again, that's for sure. Good for you, she said firmly. And Lucy, I want you to know that I'm proud of you. You've worked so hard, and you've accomplished so much on your own. Tears sprang to my eyes. Why couldn't my own parents have ever said those words to me? A week passed without any contact from my parents, then 2 weeks. I kept expecting them to show up at my door again or find some new way to contact me, but there was nothing. At first, I was relieved, then oddly disappointed. Had they given up that easily? Then, exactly a month after their visit, I received a letter in the mail. It was from Jaimes, of all people. I almost threw it away unopened, but curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a single sheet of paper with her precise handwriting. Lucy, Mom and Dad are struggling financially. Without your contributions, they've had to cut back on a lot of things. Dad is looking for a second job, and Mom is talking about going back to work for the first time in 20 years. They asked me to help them out, but I can't afford to right now. My boyfriend and I broke up, and I had to move to a smaller apartment. I know we've never been close, and I know I've been the favorite. I didn't ask for it, but I didn't exactly refuse it either. I never realized how much they leaned on you financially until now. It's not fair that they expected so much from you while giving so much to me. I'm not asking you to start sending them money again. I just wanted you to know that they're really struggling. Maybe give them a call. Jaimes. I stared at the letter in disbelief. Jaimes acknowledging the unfairness? Jaimes not demanding I restart the payments? It was so out of character that I read the letter 3 times, looking for the catch, the guilt trip, the manipulation. But there didn't seem to be one. That evening, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine, watching the sunset and thinking about my family. For the first time in my life, I was financially comfortable. My student loans were paid off, I was saving money each month, and I had even started looking at cars to replace my aging sedan. All of this was possible because I wasn't supporting my parents anymore. But was I happy? Yes, I realized with some surprise I was. I had good friends, a job I enjoyed, and the freedom to make my own choices without constant guilt and pressure. I didn't need my family's approval to be happy. The next day, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered it. It's Dad. Please don't hang up, Lucy. I have been thinking a lot, as has your mother. I remained silent and waited. He went on, his voice cracking a little. We were wrong. We have consistently acted incorrectly toward you. You were taken for granted by us. We apologize for expecting too much and providing too little. I'm very sorry. Although I had previously been duped, this was the first sincere apology I had ever heard from him. He stopped, Dad. No, let me finish. We don't anticipate receiving another payment from you. I'm not phoning for that reason. We wish we had the opportunity to be better parents to you because we miss you. I closed my eyes, caught between mistrust and hope. I'm not sure whether I can believe that. I get it, he murmured softly. Although we haven't gained your trust, we would want to attempt if you don't mind. Perhaps we could get together for coffee at some point, just to chat? I gave it some serious thinking. Perhaps, I responded at last. Not yet, though. I require further time. He said, we'll wait. No matter how long it takes. I sat for a bit after we hung up, trying to digest what we had discussed. Had they truly comprehended what they'd done, or was this just another ploy to manipulate? I was not certain, and I was not yet prepared to find out. The months that followed were life-changing. I was able to buy that new automobile and relocate to a better apartment with the additional cash I was saving. My friends, who were more like family to me than my own family had ever been, helped me celebrate my second promotion at work. I maintained contact with Aunt Carol and some other family members, but I avoided my parents and Jaimes. I wanted that room to discover who I was without having to worry about their opinions and expectations. I eventually consented to have coffee with my parents 6 months after the altercation at the restaurant. At first, it was uncomfortable and stressful, but it was also unique. They inquired about my new residence, my work, and my life. They paid attention to what I had to say. There were no subtle jabs about how I should be performing better or comparisons to Jaime. My father remarked, "Lucy, we're proud of you," as we were heading out. "We ought to have informed you of it long ago." I started crying when I heard those remarks since they were so straightforward but so meaningful. I didn't express forgiveness. I hadn't arrived yet. For the first time, though, I considered the possibility that I might be able to. I made a new life for myself in the year that followed. I established new acquaintances, resumed dating, and even used the money I had saved to travel alone to Europe. I discovered that I was stronger than I had previously thought. I discovered that I could be content without the approval of my family. My connection with Jaime and my parents is still complex. One cautious step at a time, we are gradually restoring confidence. I've come to terms with the prospect that we may never be genuinely close.